Hi, welcome to Prem Sporting Rants with yours truly. I'm Solo. That's how it's going to be for now, for the foreseeable future. So I'm going to be talking about two sports, the two most important sports in my opinion, football and wrestling. There's not much happening in the world of football, but UEFA has given an update that the Premier League has got a deadline for when they can set the dates for the sport to commence and to finish. I think that's a good indication where we can then hopefully progress from this unfortunate pandemic that we're going through. Every side deserves an opportunity, whether in the Premier League, in the Championship, and in the lower leagues, to have an opportunity to finish the season because there are a lot of things to fight for, whether it's for survival in their respective leagues or for the Premiership clubs in particular going for the spots that can ensure you European football, which means greater income. I think there's not much more to say about it. For sporting reasons, let's hope it happens. However, we do not know if there's going to be a second wave of this annoying pandemic, but in a sporting perspective, let's hope it happens as soon as possible. So, as you can tell, there's not much to talk about in football. Let's talk about past events. So 27th of April has just happened, and on that, it's a particular date which has had several footballing events over the years because football is the greatest sport in the world. But I'm going to focus on two particular incidents. 27th of April 2014 witnessed perhaps one of the most iconic moments in Premier League history because we're talking about a player that in Steven Gerrard, who unfortunately in a game where the title race was on the line, Chelsea arrived at Liverpool and Liverpool had to maintain momentum after beating Man City a few weeks earlier. Unfortunately, Gerrard in that game, after telling his teammates in the hurdle after beating Man City that we cannot slip, unfortunately slipped. I'm not here to rib Steven Gerrard, one of the greatest players that the Premiership has ever seen, but it's interesting how that particular incident of him slipping is seen as one of the most iconic moments in the history of our league. Although the league's old, but I mean very young, 1992, but nevertheless, it's interesting how emotional we can get at the highs and lows of players, whether they're of our side or of the opposition. And it's a very sad moment for that particular player because he is one of the greatest players that's ever graced the Premier League, and it was his greatest opportunity to win the Premiership. He had a chance, obviously, under Rafa Benitez. Gerard Houlier's Liverpool was a bit strong, but never were a serious contender. But it's just like remember the Rafa Benitez facts. But regardless, it's really sad, and I'm one of those that tends to taunt that particular moment for Steven Gerrard. Nevertheless, we're here to talking about football and wrestling, and there's a reason why so many of us can connect on the sport of football because it has us emotionally invested on 22 men kicking a ball towards the net. Because there's so many things that are interpreted other than that simple analogy that I just gave. And seeing that player who has done so much for the Premiership, it's really sad. And it's basically on the trend of what I'm going to be talking about throughout these podcasts. And the next topic I'm going to talk about that happened on the 27th of April, happened on 27th of April 2006, is when Middlesbrough, I'm a Middlesbrough fan, were able to defy the odds again and were able to get into the finals of the UEFA Cup. So I'm guessing a lot of you do not know or maybe do not care about Middlesbrough. Basically, on that day, we were in the I know it's quite funny what I'm about to say. We were in the UEFA Cup semi-final, second leg. That's right. And we played a side called Steaua Bucharest, 2006, and we were already 1-0 down when we went to their ground. The previous round, we were losing 3-0 in aggregate, and we came back to win 4-3. We had a player that was huge, had hugely underperformed, had a lot of potential in Macaroni, who helped us rescue us in order for us to progress that particular time against Barcelona in the quarterfinals. And then in the semi-finals, we were losing 3-0 in aggregate, going down 2-0 on the day, but somehow we made it 4-3. What's really important about this whole particular incident is it helps to define why I support the most random of sides, being a guy that grew up and was born in London, supporting a side all the way up north in England. It's because football is more than just, in my interpretation, it's just more than just medals. And this is why I spoke about Gerrard previously as well. He, like Gerrard, he's never won a Premiership. Middlesbrough, they've never won a Premiership. But football goes beyond just these physical things of just having a title and medals. It's a sport that emotionally connects us to the sport itself. And what that particular incident of the Middlesbrough game in particular was about a side that celebrates just to have the opportunity to reach the UEFA Cup final. We got destroyed by Sevilla, by like Dani Alves' Sevilla for being Kita as well, but I don't want to go too much into that. But it just shows the power of football, in which how we can get so emotionally invested by just the progression of a side fighting for the opportunity to win a game. And every tackle, every pass, every strike hits us emotionally. And it was more than just being at the ground. I wish I could be at the ground. I have been at Middlesbrough. For those wondering, I've never been. I have been, but it's just I wish it could just. And it actually was at Middlesbrough, Brentford recently. Went with one of my close friends. We lost to Brentford, unfortunately, but it was really good to be at the pre-game meetup in which they actually arranged a local rock band to perform for the crowds, and it was good to see the spirits there. And people know that Middlesbrough aren't the Manchester United, the Real Madrids, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, but people support the side because of their emotional connection. And that helps to define why I support Middlesbrough, because I like to support a side for the football itself, not for their victories, for their games. I used to be a glory hunter years ago before I supported Middlesbrough. So when I was a little child, when I turned 10, I just stuck with Middlesbrough and I felt great. And I thought those two particular incidents would be really important to help kick off Prem Sporting Rants. And as I said, I'm going to talk also about wrestling. Last night was Monday Night Raw. I think it was quite interesting for those that have seen it. We saw the return of Jinder Mahal versus Tozawa. I feel there was two ways to look at it. I feel sorry for Tozawa because he's been jobbing a lot lately, but on the flip side, he's not been actually destroyed beside the Jinder Mahal match, because he gave Austin Truth a good match. He also gave a good match last week against the US champion Andrade, but against Jinder Mahal he was just squashed. But on the flip side, Jinder Mahal is an ex-WWE champion. A lot of people like to look badly at him because his title reign ultimately failed. However, I think every star besides besides Roman Reigns and AJ Styles have had questionable title reigns. Even look at Kofi Kingston. Unfortunately, the same could be with Drew McIntyre in a few months' time. So it was good to see Jinder Mahal. And I like the team of Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. They look like a really good team. They offer that fast-paced tag team solution that I think that could benefit wrestling for the foreseeable future. And let's just hope that the releases that I should say. Let me go use the proper terminology. Sorry, guys. The WWE releases that happened that I spoke about with on the daily football and sports show with Taz and Sean. We spoke about how it was quite unfair, but maybe those wrestlers could return because just if WWE cannot afford to keep those wrestlers in order to save $4 million a month, do you think AEW can suddenly afford them? Tony Khan, it's up to him if he wants to fund his son. Or wait, I think Tony Khan is the son. Sorry, so it's up to Tony Khan if he wants to use more of his dad's money, but it doesn't always work really well. Look at TNA. Dixie Carter was using her parents' money, and then TNA never really made a profit. But don't get me wrong, TNA, great show, and I'll leave it for another day when I say that TNA helped to restructure the WWE into what they are today in terms of the performance level. But as a product, I think Raw is behind SmackDown because it's still a case of there's too many wrestlers that you do not know who can't really get into. You have to try to grow new guys. They're like NXT or jobbers, NXT low card wrestlers or jobbers. Like MVP introduced the two wrestlers. They're not bad by any means, but you don't really know who they are. And they re-challenged Ricochet and Cedric Alexander. And then we saw that Bobby Lashley beat a jobber as well. And they're not exactly jobbers to an extent. They actually did a better performance than Cesaro, unfortunately, where he was able to slap Lashley. But nevertheless, I think SmackDown is better because they've got more of their stars. They don't extend their matches too long to help kill time, which Raw is doing. We saw the 3-on-3 match, the Money in the Bank participants versus Andrade and Garza and Austin Truth. Oh, I shouldn't say Money in the Bank participants because breaking news was that Apollo had injured his knee and he's going to be replaced. Hopefully, at least with more options. But Raw desperately needs options, and I think although they did fire a lot of people, they do have others that they can call upon, like the guy from Florida himself, Titus O'Neil. I don't know why Vince McMahon still has never forgiven him for that incident he had when Daniel Bryan retired. But I think Titus O'Neil would be a good person to have, whether he would be as a jobber or someone to go for the title. It's just these wrestlers deserve some TV time. And Titus O'Neil is a very talented wrestler and an amazing person, in fact, because he does a lot of charity. He beat David Beckham a few years ago for the most charitable father. And the BAME Awards always highly regards him. Him and Terry Crews are good friends. So that's a very good point to look at as well. So Raw has some good matches. I like the Drew McIntyre, Seth Rollins incident. I think they're making Drew McIntyre really strong, but I'm not sure how long they can sustain that because he looked at Braun Strowman, looked at Kane. You don't want people to look at the wrestler as just unbeatable because when they're just seen as unbeatable, then it can affect them when they actually suffer a defeat. And when they actually suffer defeat, then people start interpreting them differently. But Drew McIntyre is a good figurehead, but it's just I think he will beat Seth Rollins. That's my prediction. But it's just that I hope they help him to build upon his character because he's got that great Highlander look. I'm a big fan of Highlander as well. I'm a bit embarrassing to admit. The series, I like the series more than the movies, but nevertheless, he's got that good image, and hopefully they can use that positively. And if they use that positively, it can help him build upon a very promising future and help the WWE as well. Vince McMahon recently said, "Oh, our ratings are down because we lack Brock Lesnar." I think Brock Lesnar is the most talented athlete that WWE has ever had, but he's not there nearly often enough to have a big effect on the regular weekly ratings, whilst he may have a big effect on the stock. So I think that's going to be it for now. I just thought I'd just start this Prem Sporting Rants of just going for my first attempt and just going for my own solo career here. Oh no, not more of a career, it's more of a hobby, because this is going to just be a hobby. Feel free to comment, and I would gladly respond, and feel free to subscribe to continue watching my future podcasts. I've got a lot of things lined up. As you saw in the previous podcast, I was able to bring a lot of guests beforehand. Arman, Artif, both of them have recorded a podcast in which we will discuss our 5 top intercontinental champions, along with other guests as well, other talented actors, and also a motivational gym trainer that helps to do regular Zoom calls as well, in which you're able to watch him. He's a personal fitness trainer, I should say, sorry, and he helps to help people keep their fitness during these tough times. So feel free to watch that. That's going to come in a future date, and I'm going to do more of these, just giving Prem sporting rants, and feel free to say whatever you want. Remember to like, hit the bell button, comment, and subscribe. There's a Prem sporting rant. Get out of it.